Just to let everyone know, commissioners, we are streaming currently. We can start whenever you're ready and start recording. So
Sounds good. What are we doing? Are we ready to go? Let's do it.
Okay. Yes.
Okay, we're gonna call the Italian Village Commission to order for today. What is today?
Today's the 10th.
October 10th, 2023. The next business meeting is Tuesday, October 31st, 2023 at noon at 111 North Front Street, second floor, room 205, which is right next door. Next month's hearing is Tuesday, November 14th at 4 p.m., 111 North Front Street, second floor, room 204. We will now swear in staff. Will you state your name for the record, please?
Of course, Morgan Graham.
And do you promise to tell the truth in your testimony to the best of your ability this afternoon and evening?
Yes, I do.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Let's introduce everybody. We'll start at the end.
Michael Smith. Carla Troy.
Ben Goodman.
Shannon Fergus.
Jason Sudi. Excuse me. I'll park my throat there. Okay, do we have any public forums today?
We do not.
All
No
right.
items today.
Anything else that we need to know about the agenda, any adjustments?
No, not many adjustments. Of course, some added items to the application items, but that's.
All right, sounds good. With that, let's go into staff approvals. Where did we start this month?
A great question. It'll be page 6.
Page 6. Okay, sounds good. All right, everybody, page 6. First, let's just have a general motion to approve staff approvals. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve staff approvals.
Yep. And do I have a second?
I second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? And I'll go through for abstentions. 1100 Say Avenue. 110 to 112 East 4th. 853 Summit. 102 Warren. 853 Summit again.
I need to abstain from both of those applications.
Okay,
That's
so
1853.
Mr. Goodman on 853.
In proximity.
Okay, got it. 733 to 735 Hamlet. 82 to 96 Russell. And I think that's the last one, right?
Yes.
Okay, correct. Yeah, very large last page on my agenda. There we are. All right, now we'll have a motion for approval of the minutes from the September 12th, 2013 meeting.
I move to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
And I can't remember if was I not here that one?
I wasn't here.
I was here, you weren't there.
Yes.
Okay.
I believe so.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And abstentions?
I'll abstain.
All right. So, here we go. First application is IV 2310-009 700 North High.
What's he doing?
Yes.
All right, once you get settled, then we'll get sworn in today. We each raise your right hands, please. And will you state your name for the record?
Happy Stiers.
Derek Bonar.
And you both promise to tell the truth to the best of your ability in your testimony this afternoon.
Yes.
Yes.
Great. All right, staff.
This is to, for 700 North High Street. This is the shift in one operable to the corner, operable window to the corner of the building, adding a single door to the north elevation, change the front single door to a double door on the west elevation. The nano wall has also been reduced in size. Window mullion patterns have to match, and space indicated for art has increased in size. Design was previously approved in October 2022 under IV 2210-008. Applicant has returned with revisions to the exterior based off of future tenants' requests. At the October business meeting, commissioners had the following requests and statements. Some commissioners did not have concern for the changes, but would request applicant provide the overall reasoning for the changes. Some commissioners see the change in design as more of an industrial look and appears to change the overall character of the building. If there's industrial looking windows along High Street, the commission has requested the applicant provide examples along the streetscape. Applicant has provided additional contextual photos of buildings along High Street that have more industrial look or design. Additionally, they made an additional revision to remove the second floor from the rear of the building to align the north elevation of windows. Staff note the sizing of the openings have not changed from the previous approval, only configuration design of the windows and front door area. Staff recommendation is to approve application IV 23-10-009 as submitted with all clarifications to be submitted to board staff review and approval prior to issuance of a certificate. Basis of staff rec is 31-16-11, standards for alteration 1 through 12.
Okay, thank you. Over to the applicants.
I'd say the only other modification that we've made since our last one, at the business meeting is we are replacing the steel below the first floor windows with the stone that was already there. Just to simplify some of the materials used at the base of the building and durability of that as well.
Can we have that pointed out? 'Cause I'm not sure. I'm following.
On the first page, it is pointed out on the elevation, and it's called out below the windows there.
So underneath the windows on the previous approved plans was a rolled metal. And for durability and for just, I think, better aesthetics for the neighborhood, we're proposing using a granite stone base for underneath just those windows. There's also a granite curb that's like a 6-inch tall curb that runs around the whole building, but that's was on the previous application. So we're just kind of bringing that up and having a few less materials and trying to make it cleaner. I guess maybe to roll into the windows. We're really close to getting something done with the tenant that we're all excited about. Mark was hoping to kind of join and say that, but he wasn't able to come today. So they're kind of requesting the double door on High Street and then the side access door. And then we thought, that they didn't want that second floor mezzanine that's there. So kind of aligning the windows up on Lincoln all straight across, I think is a much cleaner look. And then we had some issues with getting the windows and sizing rhythm actually bought out the way we had previously shown it. So I think this is a more successful, a little tighter, cleaner, more appropriate size window for the neighborhood. So if you actually go to the rendering sheet, we spent quite a bit of time, thank you, page 5, trying to show you kind of the before and after. So the previous one had kind of a thicker, bigger mullion. This has a bigger mullion in the middle of a lot of those windows, but the simulated divided lights are gonna be a lot smaller, like 7/8. I just think it's gonna feel a lot more appropriate and a lot less like some of the horror attempts in the neighborhood. So really just trying to buy this thing out and be thoughtful and meticulous with some of these details. So I'm here to answer any questions you have.
Great, all right. Does anybody in particular want to start on this one?
Well,
Okay, sounds good.
I just have one question on the proposed rendering. The granite is the dark granite that you're showing that runs along the entire base of the building and then comes up to the window sill.
Yeah,
correct?
that's correct.
Okay, I get that. I think this is fine. In my view, I kind of like it.
Great.
Thanks.
Jump in.
I think it's nice as well. Usually we see a photo or something of the granite, because it does just kind of, it doesn't look that different from the steel, but I think it's a really good idea that it's granite versus steel. I don't know if we could have that aspect be approved by staff, but
If it's in our original materials list, it's not a new material, so we always had that granite base with the black, so that was already approved. We're just extending that same material up.
okay, sorry.
No, that's fine. Yes,
It's that one, so then I don't have it.
that's great.
It's nice.
Well, staying on that granite, I forgot whether it was a flame finish or such a polished. Can you recall?
I don't recall.
So we don't know if it's matte or gloss.
I think it's a flame finish. That's what we did at our 7-Eleven where Del Mar is. That's what we're doing at our Parkside building. I would anticipate being the same, but if you had a strong opinion, we could do either direction.
Yeah, I have a strong opinion. It would not be high polish.
Yes,
That would
agreed.
be, our intent.
Carbon or flame, yeah.
So I'd like to make sure that if this goes to motion, that's included in the motion. Sharing that with others. I have a little bit of heartburn of all the divisions. I think that it's always going to be a concern of ours to get a finer bowl, between glazing pieces. And to be sure, it sounds like suggesting that it's going to be thinner on some molds than it was before, but obviously we got a big thick one in the middle.
Correct. So before it was all like 2 inch. You look at the drawing they have up, pretty much everything was 2 inch. Now we'll have a 2 inch in the center, or maybe it'll be two, it's like basically storefront windows put together. But the interior mullions will be the 7/8 or 3/4, the smallest ones we can kind of get looked to have that more.
Is that detailed, that middle piece, the vertical piece, is it just like casement, or is it part of the window itself, but there's a seam in between?
It would
I'm
be
talking about the second floor, I'm looking at.
correct. So before it was all that thick, and so now it's just that one center one's that thick, which is basically should be about 3.5, 4 inches, I believe, when you frame up two storefront windows and mold them together. That makes sense.
And then as that passes down to the ground level, and we're talking about nano walls, I suppose that some of those thicker molds are actually movable.
Yes.
Only on the first floor, correct?
Yeah. Yeah, on the north elevation, the basically double storefront mullion together is the same width as where you have the operable, where you have the bend in the window. That hinge point.
I'm sorry, this has become some conversational.
No.
But I think that those clarifications are important to what you're doing. I just will say that the side door is not a problem in my view. I don't think design-wise that the removal of the second story near the back is a problem. But I will just say out loud for the record that there's been a lot of demo of this building. And if it were a more contributing building, we'd probably be wagging our finger at you by this point. So let's just be careful as we go forward. If you're planning any other sort of removals, I think that we might even have to go so far as to grant approval for demolition of, because it's like you've removed pretty much the whole building.
Agreed. Yeah, there's not a whole lot left, as you said, to remove. The container is staying the same shape as we kept, but.
Well, with my
We
understanding of
understand.
the windows, the way you described it, I think I'm in support of the project.
Thank you.
Nothing to add.
I don't have anything either. I think those are good comments. Thanks for kind of iterating along with us. I appreciate that your plans have grown further in your rendering as it's gone to the meaning. It's been time.
Yeah.
It's been grown, what's happened. No, it looks good. And I seriously though, I do appreciate you doing a more realistic curb edge on the new one because it helps us understand how it fits into how the high streetscape a little bit better. Because there are some variations out there, so that is very useful. With that, I did hear the criteria for a little bit of clarification on the granite. You're comfortable with staff approving that then?
Yeah, I also kind of think that we need to make sure that the window types or cut sheets need to be submitted as well. If that's not already in the package.
One question from staff, I thought I clarified this on my own, but the windows, the new windows that you'll be installing, they're the same product that was previously approved, or they are new products? I don't believe that.
The plan is to have storefront and all the fixed windows and then a nano wall for the operable.
But the manufacturer,
It has changed. We did previously, it was basically residential window type, and now we're in a commercial type. So it's more of a storefront product instead of a off-the-shelf fixed window size. So we can submit that to you.
So that would be part of your motion.
Definitely, and I just want to make sure that staff is comfortable with evaluating the thinness of those walls and feels like it matches the intent of commission.
Okay, do you we'll make that all into a motion?
I'm, if that isn't already formed, I move on 23-10-009 to approve the application as submitted here tonight with the understanding that the applicant will also submit cut sheets for the windows being proposed or substituted from the previous application. That the applicant will also submit the specifications of the matte finish granite that is in the window or the sort of, what we'll call them, storefront openings. And that the applicant is aware of the fact that any other sort of removal of the building might put us into a demo request.
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving along. ID-23-09-011 Jeffrey Park Days. It's X, I mean, I want to brand. All right, team, if you will all raise your right hands, and we'll go down the line.
Robert Harris.
Jay Schwartz. Matt Negron.
And you all promise to tell the truth in your testimony to the best of your ability this afternoon and evening.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Sam.
Proposed work description. Application was reviewed conceptually at the past December 2022 hearing, IB 22-12-020. Construction of a 257-unit, 301-bedroom apartment building with 6 townhomes attached to a 3-story parking garage. Garage to have 332 parking spaces, 3,200 square feet rooftop amenity space, pocket park at the garage entrance and exit at Dickinson Street. Proposed materials include metal panel siding, gray, corrugated metal panel, dark bronze, black storefront, black metal railing, black vinyl single hung faker windows, wood look soffit, general shale brick Sugar Creek for apartment buildings, Smoky Mountain for the parking garage, and Bourbon Trail for the townhomes. Staff analysis. Included are the meeting or the comments made from the previous hearing minutes. Would the commissioners like me to read those off at this
Did
time?
folks need a refresher on this one?
I think it should happen.
Okay, that is fine. This is from the unapproved September 12th, 2023 Italian Village Commission meeting minutes. Commissioners' comments. Commissioners appreciate the incorporation of the green space, the proposed green wall, since it's softened to blend the connections, but they do have some concern about the implementation of the green wall. They requested an applicant supply additional information to prove its sustainability. Commissioner Kaplansky stated that the overall form appears appropriate with the neighborhood with a strong datum line. Commissioners would still like to see a pedestrian cut through between the garage and apartment building as previously discussed to divide the buildings in order to break up the lot coverage, encourage pedestrian activity, and to provide additional natural lighting. Commissioners recommended implementing additional new brick color to provide additional differentiation, as well as maybe using a lighter color material instead of using the darker color metal panel for the 4th and 5th floor on the apartment complex. Commissioner Michael Smith recommended planting trees on top of the parking garage to help mitigate heat and to soften the connection. Commissioner Goodman stated that it may be more appropriate to switch the building massing to have the townhomes facing a park and for the apartment massing facing Phase 9 apartment complex. Encourages applicant commissioners to rethink how the adjacent pocket park is being engaged with Phase 10. Commissioner Goodman recommended applicant provide a more detailed cross-section of the porch. He believes the porch detailing is much too simple in comparison to the detailing of the townhomes. Commissioner Goodwin recommends an addition of a water table, which can maybe accomplish by relief or projection. At the October business meeting, Commissioners had the following requests and statements. Requested applicant providing more detailed section drawing for proposed porches on the row houses as previously requested. Commissioners appreciate the additional detail that has been added to the porch. Commissioners requested more information about the green wall space, i.e. plant materials, spacing, size, and placement plan. Some commissioners see the change in design as more of an industrial look. It appears to change the overall, oh, that's not included, I'm sorry, that was from the last one. Some commissioners would still ask applicant to consider separating the buildings and an alley space between the two, as well as potentially switch the current massing. Commissioner Studi asked applicant to clarify the arc panel holding space on the corner facing the 4th. Requested applicant to provide a preliminary landscape plan as well as lighting, and Commissioner Trout recommended applicant look into adding trees in the parking area. Applicant responded to the comments provided by the commissioner's feedback. Thrive Companies will be working with POD Design on their complete landscape package that will start after the building is approved. The project followed the direction of Commissioner Trout to set the garage pedestrian entry back 33 feet from the townhomes and apartments. 2 different bricks are shown from the townhomes and apartments. Their architects studied the 4th and 5th floor finish and strongly feel that the darker color works best for the building as well as the overall development. Thrive Companies cannot commit to planting trees on top of the parking garage based on it being unique in nature and complexity of execution. Applicant is supplied in a large porch section as previously requested, which is on page 14, 20, 22, and 23. Water tables have been added as well on page 14. The art will be public, thus administered through the 5th and 4th Special Improvement District. The SID will work with the board members as well as Thrive companies regarding the fair share funding, the locations and degree of being permanent or changeable. And these are in a document within the meeting materials as well listed out. Staff note the proposed windows have been approved in the past from the previous phases. That is the Quaker, single hung Quaker windows. HPO staff would still recommend the applicant select a window from the approved windows list. Staff recommends the commission continue the application to offer design feedback that can be utilized by the applicant to further refine the proposal for review at a future IBC meeting. Basis of staff rec is 311612. Standards for new construction. Short North Design Guidelines, height massing, page 322, 323, and new construction, pages 327 and 328. Thank you.
Okay, great. Anybody in particular? Oh, I'm sorry. It's ready to jump in.
Anybody could jump in, huh? In regards to the main bullet points, there were 10 major items on this. 7 of the items we totally understand and agree with, and we were amicable to and made those changes. If you want, I can go through each one of those. Would you like?
Maybe just very brief.
Okay, very quickly, Commissioner Kaplanski stated the overall form appears appropriate with the neighborhood and strong data line. We appreciated that. We'd like to, in regards to the bricks being implemented with different bricks on the thing that was asked for. We now have the 3 different bricks on the project, differentiating all 3 elements onto it. There was more detail on the cross section of the porch. And we also added details to the porch to match more in regards to the cornice and details you had. The water table that was requested, we've added that. The only clarification we wanted was when you said water table, are you meaning a cast stone base underneath or just the water table itself, like you would do with just the same material? Then the cornice detail was added as requested. And then the art, we worked with the CID on that. They'll be coming to you the same as they have for all the rest of the murals in the neighborhood. Everything what we're doing is we're providing the areas for the art. They'll be determining regards to they have an art panel, they have funding, things like that, stuff to be programmed in. So. Yeah, but those are the 7. In regards to the green space, okay, we also find that's very important for this. That's why we wanted to do the green walls to break up the project and stuff like that. But if you recall, in our last month meeting, we had phase 9 landscape architecture came in, and we're actually under construction on that project. We plan on fully doing that again on this project to vet out everything, and that'll include also the difficulty we're having with trying to get the trees implemented. And what we're having is we've had 3 projects in my neighborhood, one at 5th in Olentangy, one at 3rd in Olentangy, and one at Goodell in Olentangy. And all the trees have died in the wells that they planted. So what we have is when we put the trees up in the garage, we're going to be unconditioned space underneath. So it's going to freeze in the winter. So it's going to kill the tree. And then we also need to make sure it drains. So in the wintertime, the drain lines will freeze up because again, it's unconditioned. So the difficulty of doing that. So we can't sit there, we're not going to say to you like, oh yes, we're going to do that to get a caveat, to get a vote. What we need to do is work that into our landscape package and everything and fully vet that. The thing. If you go to page 7 of our presentation. Okay. And our first meeting, this is our 6th meeting on this project. Our first meeting, we discussed in regards to the placement of the garage compared to the placement of the apartments, compared to placements of the townhomes. And the commissioners all agreed unanimously in regards to this placement. If you look, you can see a dividing line on the page where the garage is to the right, and then the apartments are to the left. You can see it's very dismal. I mean, it's the parking garage with the cable lines. It's the interstate coming off with high-powered halogen lights. It's the off-ramp with the rumble strips on it. And then it's looking into the embankment of the off-ramp. So that's why we chose back then at the first meeting and all the way through here is to put the garage there. Then we put the homes and the apartments where you can see it's clearly across from the other apartments that are being built. It's across from our condominiums on one side, our apartments on the other, and then the other side's facing Wonder Bread. If we put the apartments into the embankment of the interstate, the first 3 floors of the apartments would pretty much be very dismal, very dark again.
Just, I don't know if anybody was suggesting that. I mean,
No, in fact, I think a lot of this is directed for me, and I would suggest that I was imagining it would be flipped along the axis in a vertical way, not flipped it in a horizontal way. So if that's what you're referring to, then I would agree with your statement that I was not encouraging, or I don't think we were encouraging any sort of development into the bankment.
yeah, so I think it maybe just got lost in translation.
Some miscommunication. Right?
Yeah, I don't think anybody was ever suggesting that.
Okay. And then in regard to separating the garage from the apartments, we did what Commissioner Trott was talking about, where we separated where now the entryway into the garage is set 33 foot back into it. And that would be, let me see what pages.
I think page 6 gives a pretty good.
Yeah.
This,
Yeah.
Page 5.
this is 6.
Yeah, I mean, there's one in the plan as well.
Okay.
Good. Any other thoughts?
Yes, on page 8, 23, 24, and 25. I apologize, I lost it in my notes.
I got you.
You see the upper right of the home with setback into that area? And
Yes.
then you go to page 24.
Yep, yep.
And do you see how the garage is going like that until he stops? And then it goes, or it's totally open to the feedback?
Yeah, and just to double check then, so as these renderings show, there will be some sort of brick veneer on the front of that portion of the garage.
That sets in?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
that's, I think, the important thing.
Yeah, positively.
Understand, yeah. Sounds good. Okay, continue, please.
And you can see here, and then you can see where the darkness of there.
Yeah.
Where it just totally is all the way back 33 feet from the face of the apartments.
Are there other things that you wanted to share today during the discussion?
I would say just one more comment along with these renderings that are currently on the screen. The 3 different brick, I guess if you go to the one right before this. The 3 different brick that we added. So the townhomes are their own style of brick, and then the garage is its own style. And then the last one, the apartments, is another style of brick. And then kind of building off of what Rob had said with the cut through, we did want to emphasize that entry, so we did widen it, made that park a little bit bigger, and then really emphasized, I guess, the connection to the 2 crosswalks on either side of the development, so as to kind of go along with the natural fabric of the community. We did feel that cutting through between the garage and the apartments didn't lend itself to like a good exit point by the exit of the highway and everything. So that was the only thing there.
Great. Let me just jump in because I think a lot of the end ones were things I had brought up before, and then we'll go down the line. For me, the setback and the brick veneer on the front of the garage goes a long way. I think that is effective. And I know there was a mix of renderings and drawings, and I wasn't totally clear last month that was going to have that full brick veneer on it, which I think is definitely highly additive, particularly when you get the green space in front of it. Because I think as that grows in with the setback, I think that will sort of alleviate certainly down the 6th Street streetscape. I think you're not even going to notice it at all. I think the only time you're going to notice is when you're coming in head on from the other street, which obviously is an issue. That being said, I also think that because the opening to the garage is directly across, that will read when people are approaching it, a bit of, as a more of a sort of an infrastructure continuation, rather than if it was just sort of a solid wall garage, not that I'm like a huge advocate for driveways. That being said, it feels like more actual intersection, rather than, feels like an intersection with something, rather than garage interrupting the flow of the street. So I think that worked out well, and I think the way you approached it is successful for me. And one question I still do have remaining is that, I appreciate the diagram you did on the lighting, in particular, in order to indicate that it gets paid 19, the distance from that clubhouse overhang. One of the questions I have, and again, I'm looking through a kind of a series of these drawings, so I want to make sure I'm understanding them all correctly. It looks like on some of the earlier, let me see, elevations, like on page 14. One of the questions I have for you, and again, this isn't something I would hold up the project on. I think it might be worth, holding that portion and investigating further in the future. Even though the park sort of ends, here on the main building, and this ends up going back toward another block. If there's a way that instead of having those 4 taller light stanchions, we could consider putting a series of shorter light stanchions. These are every other pillar. You could still get your correct light levels. I think it would be more effective if the shorter building was either, they barely were taller, the lights, or they were not taller, if they were even. I think that's one thing that makes it lose the effect of having a screening set of buildings in front, which I think is super effective. And then kind of reminds us that it's really not, that it's part of a bigger element instead of a separate block, which I think is the effective factor. So I'd encourage you to take a look at that again. I don't think that's a thing it's going to make or break what I decide today. Certainly, we've deferred things like that in the past, and I would be willing to have you come back with a new light study to determine if it was possible to do shorter.
I agree with you. We did the same thing on phase 9. If you recall, we brought the lights down, did new photometrics.
Yeah.
We could provide all that and get those lights down lower.
Yeah, there's a lot of rooftops in this neighborhood. I think that would just be super beneficial for everybody.
Now that you called it out, it's,
All right, that's what I have, Jen.
I don't have much to add. I wasn't here last month or at the business meeting, so I don't want to jump in. It seems like everyone's got things covered. I will say I agree with the fact that it feels like an intersection still that's kind of a dead ending into the building, and that's why that garage works. And frankly, I think works better from a pedestrian safety standpoint than completely separating the buildings. Because it keeps cars just separated, keeps people out of there, since it's covered with a garage. So that's really my only comment. I appreciate everything you guys have done as we kind of slowly transform the building over the past few months. So
Thank you.
really a year, I guess.
Thank you.
I don't have nearly the optimistic view. I think that even with the needs for parking, that these 2 buildings should have been divided, even if it required the garage be taller. I think you're right that everything, you've got it programmed in terms of east-west correctly to have the cars in the parking garage against the ramp. To my eye, it would have been much more neighborhood-like to allow this, that corridor, that sort of intersection, or that bridge right there to breathe, or the space between the 2 buildings. And it could have still been a pedestrian bridge to the other building if that needed to be. My biggest disappointment is just that this contributes to the already kind of massive quality to the building. The building to the north on the other side of Neruda, I think it is the East-West Street, is 3.5 stories, and this is 5.5. And the fact that there's really no opening of the courtyards to the streetscape, much like we tried to contribute on the building of phase, what was it, 8. Over here, we argued for that, and you found a way to make that happen. In this case, we have internal courtyards. It just all contribute, and the fact we have this garage and no streetscape and the space between the two buildings contributes to the feeling of cloistering all this in. And it feels like that, it's like this last gasp of trying to get the most density out of the last phase of the project, as opposed to making it kind of breathe a little bit like other portions of the project. I, at the very beginning, was glad to hear that you were considering putting the townhomes facing the park, which is what I had understood at the time. The fact that they ended up on Sixth Street it's my fault, or my misunderstanding that it was not on the more northern part of the elevation. I continue to feel that those homes would be more appropriate facing the park or further north in the elevation, and the apartment buildings further to the south, as the masses would better match the phase 9 mass. I appreciate the fact that you guys paid some attention to our requests for the porch details, water table, lighting and landscape. And I realized that some of these things about mass and the program locations were missed by me and maybe some of my colleagues earlier, but I think that it's still appropriate for me to say that many of those meetings were conceptual, and that at this point, I think this needs a revision to be appropriate for that corner site and for the neighborhood. And the last thing I'll say is I really feel, especially starting to talk about trees, that we should not kick the landscape plan down the road, that it should happen before we get final approval.
Carla?
Let's see, I just want to start with trying to read these numbers on here. Oh, there it is, 19, sheet 19. So I understand Commissioner Goodman's disappointment that it wasn't cut all the way through the building, but I also appreciate the compromise and feel okay with that situation. I just wanted to say, oops, is that 19? I don't have those. Maybe 20. And I also appreciate the changes to the detailing on the porches and the roof of the porches. One thing that I just wanted to bring up is, you know, when you look at this rendering, and I know these are renderings, and you're doing them on the computer and they're not giving you maybe exactly what you want, but there is a sense of uniformity almost between the brick and the mortar, where when you look at the other rendering that you showed us, where you were varying the different brick, and I appreciate that, this one. I feel like, you know, what is the kind of difference that one creates when you're saying, here's the building on the right, you know, the tannish color brick, the mortar, we don't know exactly what that looks like, or the brick, but then here's this brick that has a very strong mortar difference. And I feel like we need to know something about these 3 bricks, at least, that are coming together. More than just looking at a rendering, you know, that it could be fantastic, but we can't really see. So I think it's important that we know a little bit more about what that looks like. Not that you'd necessarily have to come back, but if that could just be a staff approval or something.
Actually, we'd like very much that when we do the project, we're gonna do mock-up walls.
I'm sorry, what?
We're gonna do mock-up walls when we do the project.
Okay.
And at that time, we could take usually it's 4 foot by 4 foot panels.
Yeah.
And we could do different grouts onto it and variations, and then see, and you can actually come by. I know it's been a long time ago, but on phase 2 and phase 3, we did that. The commissioners actually came down, looked at it, and gave it direction on that. We like that.
It was a very long time ago.
Yeah.
Were you born?
It was right here.
So I think it's just, so far regarding the building, the architecture, those would be the things that I would say. And I agree that we need to see something, at least a conceptual drawing on the landscape. I think you guys have been thoughtful in saying probably can't do a green wall. We're going to maybe need to do ivy vines or something, but just that in the placement of the trees, because I do think the placement of the trees are really, it's going to make a difference in that setback in the building, that we don't see that entire facade of the parking garage. And so I do feel strongly that I'd like to make sure that those trees, and I'm okay with conceptual of this, and have to have, that everything is figured out, but just that we know that would be seeing those. And I don't know if it was here or somewhere else where I mentioned, I wish we could have a tree that didn't need to be watered and could stand the cold, but still give us shade or something up there. It's not just the tree and the fact that they're creating shade, it's also that the pavement, because grass isn't going to have the same kind of heat island effect as asphalt. And I know all of this means losing spaces, but I think there's a balance that we can achieve with that. Or develop those trees and feed a million.
Thank you.
I appreciate your comments about the trees, because I still feel the same way. But, I'm looking at the elevations on sheet 14. And wondering, I know that one of the comments was possibly using a lighter metal panel. And I think this elevation illustrates what a lighter metal panel might do for the building. With regard to emphasizing the datum lines and helping the buildings, the townhomes feel separate. But that's not what's happening. So I think as I realize that this is an architectural drawing, not a rendering, but it is showing the brick. And if you were able to update this to indicate the saturation, the true saturation of the color of the metal panel, it might be more realistic than what you're showing here. Because that's not what we're seeing in the renderings, where it's still a very dark metal panel.
Is that 14?
On 14, so we see the brick, but the metal panel there, yes, where Morgan is pointing, and between the townhomes. What looks like the separation between townhomes is actually that very dark bronze metal panel. So I think that's the, I like this.
Yeah,
I wouldn't expect it to be white, but I do think maybe a color study could be undertaken.
I think I just clicked in on what you were saying.
Mhm.
That the townhomes had the dark metal panel, and then the apartments had the same dark metal panel.
Right.
Okay,
But it doesn't show up.
took me a minute,
Right.
so.
And then the other, I wanted to ask if I feel, the porch detailing has been updated, but is the porch roof that we see in the rendering on page 20 really, when we look at the detail of the porch on 22, we're getting that profile basically from a box gutter and not a profile from any definition profile in the wood elements. Is that what we're seeing in the rendering? Is just we now have a box gutter on that roof detail that's giving us a shadow line.
Well, there's one more layer below that. I guess the beam going across the porch. So there would be the box cutter as well, but also there's one beam right below that. Yeah,
And that wasn't there in the previous.
no.
Okay, all right.
Yep.
Okay, that's all I have.
I guess just one thing I wanted to mention that I think that the density here is what we're after, what I'm after. As far as this portion, we've got that much higher building behind. If anything, I would wish the townhouse were bigger. So that's just my take. The building across the street's actually a full four. It's almost, this building's almost exactly the same, except it has one more story on it. And I think that works. So for me, I think we want to drive this density as much as we can in this last phase that leads directly to the transition with the two highway sections. It would be, I mean, it's fourth, but it's also a highway off ramp. So that's my take. I know it's a little different than what you were saying, Ben, but I actually like the fact that it's bigger in this location as opposed to some of the others.
Maybe if it was the garage that was bigger and back toward the ramp, it would have been better.
I hear you. Other thoughts from our end? Applicant, other thoughts from your end hearing our.
So the major things were really the color study, conceptual landscaping, and really those are the two main items that were outstanding.
And by color study, if you
Like the
mean
color study of
the brick as
light
well.
profile and then the
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
and
believe the lighting is well above the garage.
yeah, the lighting issue, I think, is something I'm most interested in now, as far as nailing that down. And then, of course, understanding how the streetscape is going to work, the rest of the landscaping throughout the site as we get more.
I'll contribute a couple things on that, the garage on Hubbard, near High, had some tall light standards on it that, we feel did not work in the end.
Yeah.
And, so that's kind of been a benchmark. It looks like you have pretty tall standards on this garage. And I think, Commissioner City's idea of, reducing the heights, as it gaps over the road, or where there's no protection.
I think throughout, really.
Okay, even better. But I think we're both saying is that high standards just are not good for a neighborhood on top of a garage. The other thing has just come up recently that's not part of our guidelines, but it's becoming part of our conversation is mature trees and allowing space for them to exist, which is one of the reasons I really am leaning into the idea of not, and we've traditionally given applicants the space to do landscape secondarily after an approval of the building. But we've been starting to see that we just do not get the maturity or the space for mature trees to be planted, larger trees. And so I think more and more, whether the rest of the commissioners agreed on this, we're going to be at the moment for this big of a project, we need to be looking at where those bigger trees can be planted, to your point, and that we often lose that opportunity once we've approved the building of the project. So that's one reason why I would advocate that we see that final planting plan before we approve the building.
Do you want a final work as conceptual?
I think I'll leave that to you. I think that you need to have some security that an actual large tree is going to be planted, if that's what we're expecting. So if you feel like you can get that from a conceptual, I think that's fine.
Yeah, I'm okay deferring. I think the key here is that in that pocket park where you've shown a tree, I would strongly advocate that would be some sort of a spectrum that was a little more scaled, as long as we could get it, properly spaced in that area. You've got a 30-foot setback, so you should be able to get a reasonably decent tree. The other thing is, again, I'm willing to defer this and work through all these issues as we go. I think the original street trees in much of this area, as you go further to the north, are not the greatest trees. And they're okay trees. And then right north of this, it's way more successful. It's a little bit of a larger setback on the apartment, and they have mixed maples and a number of other things that I think are already growing faster, getting bigger, looking better after only a few years. And they're actually outpacing the street trees that were placed much earlier on the earlier phases because they just weren't I didn't think there wasn't a very good pick. And I think kind of the city of Columbus has not necessarily had consistently good street tree picks throughout the last couple decades. It's been a mixed bag. And I think what I'm gonna advocate here is that we look for what I would consider sort of that more traditional street tree due to the fact that you don't have overhead wires to contend with. And, with that actual tree lawn that you're showing should give us enough absorption of water that you can get like a legitimate sized tree. So like as big a tree as we can get in this pocket park, and then other like legitimate street trees, not some kind of dwarf specimens where they're maxing out at,
Yeah, the first
18
developer
feet.
had that. They did all
They did, yeah.
ornamental trees.
Yeah, there's a lot of, don't park your car there
No.
during the seasons of which this stuff comes off. It doesn't work out so well for you. So with that, I'm personally okay to move forward today. I know Ben is reluctant, I guess, to look at temperature reading for the rest of the commission, whether we want to make a motion to approve with conditions or whether or not we feel tabling is in order, where are you?
I'm also moving forward.
Ben, I believe you are not. Carla, where are you?
Second. I can't say that I know exactly what it means. They would still be held to any of the things that are done, like say the conceptual landscape plan. How would that be presented?
Yeah, they would have to come back with a landscape plan for the entire site. And our assumption would be that it would be largely in conformance with what anything that they've shown here preliminarily in this package. So they would have to have a fully landscaped pocket park area here, a fully landscaped streetscape. Now, this doesn't address anything on the rooftop. So that is your discretion because they haven't included it at this point. So that would be whether or not they, included that in the future would be part of our discretion on whether we approve the landscape plan overall. So typically landscape signage and lighting are the three things that end up coming back later, but it doesn't have to be. That's up to us.
And if I could add also,
Yeah.
we can also do a pending approval of the design with those additional applications being submitted for the landscaping, lighting and signage and things like that. So not a full approval, it's kind of like the conditional approval with those items being submitted and approved.
Yeah, so they wouldn't receive their final approval until we actually approve those, right?
So that's also another option.
Thank you.
Which will be the next meeting.
I think it'd be good to see a landscape plan, for sure. And I'd love to see the color study, so I like what you said, Maura. Pending, what should you say?
Well, I mean, we could do a pending approval at this time, with the submittal of the landscaping plan, the lighting and graphics and signage.
And the schemes.
Yeah, with the color schemes as well. I mean, that could be approval of the overall layout, window placement, porch detailing, stuff like that, maybe not on final materials. That could be also something as well to add the pending approval. If that's how the commission wants to take this application, there's also the option of continuing until next month with the finer details being provided with the conceptual landscape plan and the other color study of like material.
So hearing all that, what would the applicant prefer that we do today?
Yeah, I'd like to state in regards to, if we do slow down moving parts, then we can really go away, not come back next month, the next month after that, do a complete landscape plan, photometrics, more accurate details on the bricks with the mortars. We can dive into those things heavy, knowing that we're not wasting time on mechanical, electrical, plumbing drawings, things like that.
So what are you advocating for? The
The
pending approval, is that what you're advocating?
pardon?
Just a continue.
Or just a,
Additional approvals.
Yeah, conditional / pending approval.
yes, we can do that.
Okay. So let's make that motion and we'll see if it passes.
Well, I think it's important to say what's conditional.
Yes, oh, yes, of course.
Yeah, so we need that motion. Does anyone care to try to make that motion?
I'll make the motion.
All right.
So move to conditionally approve IV 2309011, with the conditions that the full project is not approved until we see the color study, improve final materials based off that color study, landscaping plan, approve final landscaping plan, lighting plan, and approve final lighting plan.
And what else?
There was a fourth, was it? There's
The brick.
Graphics and
I think the color,
signage, yeah. Color study is.
the color is separate really from the brick in my mind.
So final exterior
Yeah.
materials.
Yes, final exterior.
Yeah.
Exterior materials.
Okay, color studies, yeah. And that, I think, if we could just add that the landscape plan addresses, the rooftop parking space.
So I'm just for clarification, we're basically giving them footprint and mass.
Yeah.
Yes. And porch detailing,
Instead
wash table
setbacks.
setbacks.
All right, it's just that, I think it helps to clarify.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
Yes, it's very important. Yeah, important to know.
With that, I'll second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
And abstentions. So,
Thank you.
sounds good. What we've got so far, we'll look forward to seeing all the finer details when you come back with some time there in a month.
Good, great. Thank you very much.
Okay. Until I give a second for everybody to regroup and clear out, that was a long one. So figure read it to be. So now we can jump into the third application, ID 2310-010-29 State Street. 29.
This. So this will be our first new application.
First new, okay. It's a new stuff.
Good evening.
Wow.
As soon as you get settled, we'll get you sworn in. You can raise your right hand and state your name for the record.
Jamie Kaufman?
Great, and you have to tell the truth, to the best of your ability, and your testimony this afternoon.
Yes.
Great, so staff will give us a background.
Of course. Remove existing Vermont weathering green slate roof from main roof of building, replace with new asphalt shingles on Corning's shingle and estate gray. Box gutters will be aligned with new EPDM membrane. Applicant initially reached out with their COA application for roof replacement in May of this year. HPO staff had informed applicant that since they are proposing to remove the original slate shingle roof to be replaced with asphalt shingles, we would need more detailed photos of deteriorating damaged slates, as well as provide a slate assessment. Applicant has submitted the slate assessment and the additional requested detailed photos. At the October business meeting, Commissioners stated the following: existing does appear to be in need of repair. Commission has recommended applicant to consider keeping some elevations if in good condition and replacing others if needed. Staff recommendation, we have two at this time, that the applicant repair the damaged slate with like-for-like material and same configuration and design, or to approve application ID 2310-010 as submitted with any all clarifications to be submitted to HPO staff for review and approval prior to issuance of a certificate with the following condition: that the applicant select either the CertainTeed Carrot House dimensional Stonegate Gray or GAF slate line dimensional English Gray slate or weathered slate, which are from the approved shingles list. Basis of staff recommendation is 311611, standards for alteration 1 through 12.
All right, what do you have for us today?
I talked to the customer and he did decide that he was okay with the estate gray.
The English Gray slate or the Owens Corning slate?
Owens Corning.
Actually,
hang on one second. Yes.
Okay, so let's just go through from staff, and then we'll have you kind of answer any questions that we, or from the panel, have you answer any questions, because I know there were a number of clarifying issues at our business meeting. So with that, anybody in particular care to start on this one?
I wasn't sure if I heard what Morgan said correctly, but I thought that there were a couple different options, and one of them was to try and preserve the beautiful one piece that looks like it's in pretty good shape. It's on drawing number 2. And then where it's in really bad shape beyond that, possibly replace it with the approved shingle. So it was, do I have that correct?
My recommendation, or not my recommendation, I guess, the business meeting, just things we have seen, certain elevations or the slopes of a roof have been either maintained with the slate or replaced, like the full elevation has been replaced with asphalt. Not typically a mix of the asphalt and slate. If that's what you were thinking, Commissioner Trot, and I apologize.
No, I realize it's a little unorthodox, but I just think this elevation or this segment of the roof is so beautiful. I mean, I haven't seen it combined with, you know, an asphalt shingle or something like that before, but I think if you pick the right colors, they could, which would possibly be a little darker than this, it could be okay, but I'm open to how others feel about that.
Well, I'm gonna step in there real quickly. I thought, and maybe this word combined is being misconstrued a different way, but that there might be some slopes that could be preserved as
Yes.
slate. And other slopes could go ahead and become asphalt shingle. So that was what I understood from your.
We have seen that, yeah, in the past.
I think that there was not, I don't think Carla, it was intending that their part of a given slope would be asphalt and the other part slate.
Gotcha, I apologize.
So I do think what we would have been looking for from the applicant tonight was whether the owner had understood that possibility and given any sort of direction to you about whether using slate on one slope or two and allowing him and you to do asphalt on another slope or two was something that was attractive, doable, acceptable.
I didn't ask him if he wanted to do one slope with one material and another slope with another material. I was asking him if he has a lot of leaks in this building. And that's why we had the slate assessment done, because he needs to have a new roof, but I didn't clarify specific slopes. I know that that could potentially affect the warranty as well.
Well, I'd be very curious about that. I haven't heard that before, but I do think that's indeed what we discussed at the business meeting. And I think everybody needs to consider if they're going to follow through on supporting that approach or giving them both options. I.e. some slopes slate and some slopes, the option one would be some slopes slate, which ones? And other slopes
That is an
asphalt.
awesome tongue twister.
Yeah. And the option two would be everything has to be asphalt, or everything could be asphalt, based on the applicant's prerogative.
I mean, from what we can see as staff, if Commissioners might be interjecting, some elevations, slopes do seem to be in poor condition, some others do seem to be fair and in better condition, so that's why we mentioned it during the business.
So Morgan, the one that we see in 9, this is the one that we all agree is in pretty good condition and somewhat visible compared to the others. And then we see these other slopes and they're obviously in bad condition. What we don't have is a roof plan that allows us to see which is which. I don't think anyhow.
There is a roof plan provided at the end of the meeting materials.
Is that these?
The back portion is this 192 area, I believe, that the applicant.
So that's the one that's in good condition. What's can you tell us the conditions of all of these as you go around?
The area of, I guess, labeled, well, it's not labeled, but 66 and 178 seems to be in pretty rough shape with the valley there. I'm not sure about the side elevations of the 248 or the 302, we can go for those as well, but the rear does seem to be in good condition for the slates.
So we have 1 for sure and possibly 2 or 3.
Yeah.
I would support, if Carla's saying that we would like, in best case scenario, to maintain 192, is that the southern facing one?
Southern facing one.
Especially with the retrieval of some slates from the other slopes and allow the applicant to do everything else in asphalt. And that just parts where the ridge 10 happens. I think that would be a good outcome for this.
I agree.
Let me make sure I'm understanding you. You're saying maintaining 192 with the slate and then replacing the other ones with the shingles.
That's what I'm saying, and that you would cover any good slates from the other demoed slopes so that they can be replaced on 192 where necessary. I mean, that's a ways and means thing for you guys to sort out, but it seems like that would be the right thing to do.
I agree with that totally, except if 178 or 248 are in good enough condition, they could be preserved as well.
Well, we have a report, so that's why
Oh,
you,
and it wasn't.
it was a fair condition.
Okay, fair. Right then. Then I agree totally with you.
Is that something that you would need to up your?
I would have to talk to the customer about that to see if that is something that he's interested in. I know he strongly suggests that this whole entire roof be replaced with shingles. That's what he has expressed to me.
Okay.
This roof had been inspected and their fair labeling means that it needs extensive repair, and that it's very deteriorated and that it has been poorly repaired as existing. I do know that the customer has multiple leaks on this roof, and that he is pushing to have this roof replaced as soon as possible.
Gotcha. Let's hear, what other folks think. Brooke, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I kind of I like the, scenario where the 192 is maintained with the other slopes being replaced with shingles also. Yes.
Just a real quick question for the applicant. There's some quick mention about lining the box cutters, so those are gonna remain as they are.
Yes.
Shannon, what do you think?
I agree with maintaining 192 and allowing replacement of the others, and I would suggest we could do one of two things. We could make a motion for that, and if the applicant, doesn't want to accept it, you can come back next month, but if he does, then you don't have to come back.
Okay.
Or we could continue. Would that be okay, staff?
Well, once it's approved, it's put in motion of being approved for that specifically. I guess we could come back if it's gonna be the overall replacement. I would probably recommend, we just come back for the next month as it continued, and then if he agrees with it at the time or it can't be done, it could be moved to, staff approval during the business meeting, which would be in 2 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'd be giving you a task approval, do a staff approval if they were okay with it. If we continue.
And then we can formalize it.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. I think that would be the best course of action. I'm trying to think, if it's approved for this, it does go into the record. But if it is coming back for a full replacement, it's not the same application.
No.
No. So I guess we could do a move to approval today. And then, if the applicant would like to come back for full replacement, it could be a separate application.
Okay.
But it would have to be,
For that.
yeah, it would have to be a separate application.
Do you understand what we're getting at? Because I know we're going back and forth.
Yeah, sorry about that.
I'm writing it down.
Basically, what we're saying is Shannon's suggestion is that, and we're just agreed that we could make a motion that says all of the sides could be replaced with asphalt shingles except for 192.
That 192.
And that way, if your
Customer
applicant
says, okay.
client decided, then you just move forward.
Mhm.
If that was not acceptable, then you would talk to staff and then you would have to
Submit. a full
submit,
application.
that being said, I don't think it's not like back to square one, right?
It would just be a revision, so it would have to be a new application to a revision of the previous one.
So you'd have to revise that to the satisfaction of staff, and then you'd have to come back in for this next process, or to make sure that it was reviewed again. And at which point we could decide to go yes or no if the application was to do a full replacement, that's what you wanted to move forward on. So that way at least gives you the opportunity this month to start immediately if the applicant is okay with it.
Okay.
Does that sound fair to everybody?
Yeah, with that being said, I'll make a motion if you like.
Sounds great.
I move on 23-10-010, 29 East Fifth Avenue to approve with the following conditions, that the applicant maintain roof section 192 and be allowed to replace all other roof sections shown in the application tonight, which generally I understand to be 302, 66, 178, and 248.
And am I clear, Ben, you're saying not just maintain as in keep, but maintain as in perform required maintenance on?
I'm saying maintain it in its current slate material and perform repairs as necessary as slate. And we generally understand that you're probably going to be recovering some materials from the other parts of the demo
If
to
possible,
help
they would.
restore the 192 section. So that's understood in this.
I do have a question regarding that. Legacy Roofing does not do slate roofs. We do shingle roofs, so that would have to be another contractor to do that.
Yeah, your applicant would have to figure that out.
Yeah, I think that's why you just need to ask the applicant if they're okay with that.
Because the COA will be for the property and the owner itself, and then they're hiring another or contractor, to do that work. It will still be an active COA for them to perform that work. Even it will be another contract for that portion.
I think that it's probably important with that being known, just in case this is divided into different contracts, that it's our understanding that you would recover better slates that you would be taking off and turning them over to the owner for use on other
Yeah,
areas.
that's not a problem. If those pieces are salvageable, absolutely.
Gotcha, great.
I do have one clarifying question to ask. Is the shingle that's being used Owens Corning? That's on the
Yeah.
drawing or what we have in the document?
It's Owens Corning State Gray, which is from the approved list. That's the final selection, correct?
Yes.
Okay,
It's not the onyx black. Color.
so the GAF is Owens Corning.
No, that would be a different manufacturer, Commissioner Michelson. We do have the recommendation of using Certainty, Carriage House, or GAF slate line from the approved list as well. But the applicant has selected the Owens Corning and the State Gray from the approved list,
Got it.
three-dimensional.
Okay, so.
Somebody approved the color,
It's from our previous.
Yeah.
but an approved list might not necessarily be the best color to go with what's existing.
That's why we're making those other two recommendations for the color and manufacturer. So we are making we feel that the Certainty Carriage House or the GF slate line would be more suitable for this property. So that is up to the commissioners as well. That is a condition from staff.
My motion is first to staff's recommendation.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, so good luck with that discussion and talk to staff and we'll get it all figured out whether you'll be back or not.
Thank you. All right, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to number 4, IV 23-10-011-727 North 4.
Before we move on to that application specifically, who seconded that approval? I will, Commissioner first, thanks for that, sorry. Just moved on.
Good evening.
And we're in.
Will you please raise your right hand, state your name for the record?
Yes, Colin Carter.
And you promise to tell the truth, your testimony to the best of your ability this afternoon.
I do.
Great. So staff.
For 727 North Fourth Street, this is removal of 135 feet of existing chain link fence along Hamlet Street. Install 12 U-channel signposts for the 12 western parking spaces. Poles will be installed 9 feet apart on center. Signposts will hold reserved parking signs that are currently on existing fence. Applicant initially reached out on August 28th, where HPO staff had requested additional information. After receiving staff informed applicant that we would be in support of the removal of the existing chain link fence, would recommend enhancing the corner parking with more appropriate fencing or landscaping between the asphalt lot and concrete sidewalk to additional screening, to add additional screening to the parking area, and would need to go to the commission for review. At the October business meeting, the commissioners made the following comments and recommendations. Commissioners are in support of staff's previous recommendations. made to the applicant. With the lot being on the corner, we would recommend adding more appropriate landscaping between the asphalt lot and concrete sidewalk, to additional screening as well. Commissioners asked if applicant has considered additional lighting. Staff note, we would also recommend applicant look into adding the reserved parking sign to the asphalt itself instead of installing multiple signposts for each space. Staff recommends the commission continue the application to offer design feedback that can be utilized by the applicant to further refine their proposal for review at a future IBC meeting. Or we have another condition or recommendation as well. And staff recommends to approve application IV 23-10-011 with the following condition: for applicant to install additional landscaping, fencing, screening along the street spacing sides of the parking lot. Revised site plan to be submitted to HBO staff for final review and approval. Basis of staff rec is short north design guidelines, parking lots, page 3.31 to 3.32, and 311613 stands for site improvements.
Thanks. Okay, over to you.
Yeah, so the 135 feet of fence there, we are proposing to remove and not replace. The fence is a little dilapidated, and really this was a process to just give you a heads up and ask for permission to remove that fence. We are not willing to reinstall any additional screening or landscaping at this time. It's just simply, are you in support, and will you approve the fence removal and then the install of just the typical U-channel posts that every street sign is supported by for multiple reserve parking signs. That's where we stand for this.
All right, I'm gonna start on this one, get serious for the fun of it. The answer is no, I will not support it. This is a custom-made opportunity. Like, this couldn't be a more diagrammatically perfect opportunity. If I came up with 1,000 parking lots at 1,000 locations, where you have this exactly defined, perfect channel that could be removed of asphalt between the existing fence posts and the back. It's like, it couldn't be better. You saw cut that out, you remove that entire way, you dig to an appropriate depth, probably wouldn't be that deep because this parking lot soil probably has a bit of base. Put in soil and then plant that. That is like the easiest, most simple, straightforward solution to this that could incredibly improve this. Now, I think the next step would be, it would make it even better, is if there was some sort of fencing that had transparency to, we don't want to have a solid fence because I think that would be a little, cause some safety concerns in this location. I think that would have some kind of transparency, yet would also provide screening and could combine with that landscaping. That would be the best case scenario. But for me, like, the bare minimum is to create some additional green between the edge of that pavement and where those fence posts are right now. This fence is dilapidated. This fence is ugly. This fence has also been there for a super long time, and we've all walked past it. I've walked past it personally for over 20 years and it didn't bother me more than I think it would be if I let this opportunity go past. It's fine. It's not great, but it's also fine. And at least it provides some sort of edge to that park. The one thing we don't have a lot of in our neighborhood are big, huge, empty parking lots. Even if you think the one around the corner where the church is, they've done basically that same thing. They've planted the edge of it in order to reduce that physical and visual impact. So that would be a huge missed opportunity if we didn't do that. So that's my take. So I will definitely not support it unless that green strip is in there, and then we'll have to talk about whether the fencing's there. So I will pass it down the way.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we're not gonna do it, we might as well just keep the fence and keep the signs on the fence. I don't see like the benefit to the neighborhood otherwise. Gonna do it right.
Yeah, I'm with the others, especially because, I mean, this is a larger lot that gets the headlights swinging over to the opposite side of the street, which is a very nice streetscape. So I'm a little discouraged that you guys weren't automatically interested in doing some improvements that help screen that headlight intrusion on the neighborhood, and some of the things that are being suggested, maybe including a full-scale trees. But these things don't cost that much to implement, and would definitely be an improvement to the streetscapes on your property. So I hope that And I guess my approval of the removal would be conditional on an appropriate kind of replacement. And so far, your replacement proposal is not inappropriate.
Understood.
Can you zoom in on this a little bit? So, just to be clear, Jason, you're talking this area, correct? Okay. I absolutely agree, but the one thing that I would say is I think there's a big difference if we are asking you to put grass seed, and have some kind of just low grass in there, than if we ask you to put some kind of shrub that's 2 feet or more, a tall grass, which isn't so great in the winter, but it would look great in the summer. I mean, I just think that it's pretty unsightly, and even if it wasn't totally solid, because that gets expensive, if they were spaced in some way that just makes that look a whole lot better than it does right now. So.
Yeah.
East Campus or Carl Foster, or some kind of, East Campus, you have to look at those in the size and that type of thing, but
Those are plantings.
they're grasses. Also, they're kind of tall grass because they fill in quickly and they can look beautiful in the winter if they don't get knocked down.
I agree with everything that's been said. I guess I do have another question about the 12 U-channel posts or signs. Are those like reserved? Blah, 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 blah.
Yes.
You might even be able to save a little bit by thinking of another way to sign those spaces. If it's just, maybe it's painting on the space itself rather than having a post with a sign might be a consideration, but if not, at a minimum, I agree with the tearing out that strip of asphalt for the green.
I think at this point, we will not do anything. We'll just keep the fence as is. And
Good.
if something changes internally, we'll take those comments to heart and then we'll post that and resubmit. So,
All right, appreciate it. Thanks for your time.
thank you.
All right, moving on.
We can withdraw the application, commissioners? We need to vote on. Oh, geez. If we're gonna be withdrawing that application.
Oh, yeah, and do you want to?
Yeah.
Is it Mr. Carter?
Common.
Hey, Mr. Carter, come.
Mr. Carter?
Come.
I
Are you
called
officially
Sean.
withdrawing the application? Because we.
Sorry.
Yes, I'm sorry. I was like, wait.
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you
Okay.
very much.
So then
Wait.
the motion is to.
Withdraw the application.
Right.
Then we need a motion for that. Okay.
Yes, we do.
I'll move to withdraw application IV 2310-011.
Do I have a second?
I will second, definitely understanding the applicant's intentions.
All in favor?
I
Opposed? Applicant is withdrawn. Application is withdrawn.
No, thank you very much. I'm just
Yep.
getting my head together.
Okay, so now we're in the conceptual portion, correct?
And before we continue with the conceptual, if we could just have a 10-minute recess break.
Absolutely.
That'd be
Okay,
wonderful.
10-minute break.
Thank you.
Right.
It's for me. Anyone else that might be more for me, but first, just a 10.
Good, this help, the last one? I was gonna just say, it's probably from a combo board or something. I would have been good at this.
I think I will take advantage of this as well.
Yeah, so.
Um. Has done.
So you get it back alive? Yeah, weddings.
Oh.
Or was it? Here. Just honest.
Oh, no.
Was it just the? Yeah. If it's like the materials for the, like the project, that would be different.
There's one smaller project that's just for existing photos, I guess, and contacts.
Okay.
That's
Okay. Thank you. Just since we already had one photo. Oh, cool photos, oh my gosh, images on.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Yeah, I got called out on that a couple years ago.
Oh, yeah, yes, yeah, you were the ones, I appreciate it. Well, it's complicated.
This one's should be fairly.
So trying to.
Changes.
Keep saying.
Well. So that's what it is. Makes it.
Right, we back.
I believe so.
All right, let's do it. IV 23 10 012 267 Greenwood Avenue for conceptual application. Get you sworn in. If you could raise your right hand and state your name for the record.
Charles Paris.
And you promise to tell the truth in your testimony to the best of your ability this evening.
Yes.
Excellent. Okay, we'll have staff and then we'll go to you.
This was previously reviewed as a conceptual application during the July hearing, proposing to split the lot into two separate lots. The lot is currently occupied with a small concrete block garage abutting Greenwood Avenue. Plan is to construct two family residential units, one on each lot. Materials to include snap seam metal siding material, metallic silver and metallic copper for second and third floors, SS cable railing for balcony areas, cast in place concrete for first floor, IPE wood soffit and door surround, gel blend doors, metal clad wood and slate, and gel blend cycling clad wood window casements. Both are from the approved list. Landscaping to be included for both lots to include variety of planting, IP deck, trio, smooth permeable pavers for driveway area, buff wash concrete, and horizontal cedar fencing. Included in this conceptual or variance recommendation, north lot is 333215 to decrease the minimum required 6,000 square foot to 4340.80 square feet. 333215 to allow fronting towards Greenwood Avenue, which is considered an alley, and 333226F to remove the west side yard minimum setback from 5.75 feet to 3 feet at the west property line. For the south lot, it's 333215A4 to decrease the minimum required width of 50 feet to 27.5 feet. 333215 to decrease the minimum required 6,000 square feet to 3,042.81 square feet. 333226F to decrease the side yard from 5.7 feet to 5 feet at the east property line and 4 feet at the west property line. And 333218D to increase the maximum building lot coverage from 50 to 66.29%. And I apologize, my papers are a little mixed up here. How did this happen? I'm so sorry. Right. Back on track. Applicant has initially reached out to HPO staff for the request for action application. After further discussion and review, HPO informed applicant that they would need additional information for this to be considered a complete action application. We recommend application be reviewed as conceptual application. Additional information requested by HPO staff was current existing site photos, not from Google Street View, for the commission and staff to better assess the site. Scaled and measured elevation drawings of the buildings, Juglin doors, metal clad product specifications, clarification of the sightline window selected, and if it is Juglin product, which has been cleared up, lighting specifications to be used on the property as well. Following is taken from the approved July 11th, 2023 Italian Village Commission meeting. Commissioners agreed that proposed lot is in a unique lot and having 3 street-facing sides. Commissioners recommended when applicant proceeds with the project to be prepared to discuss trash, recycling, and if they have a solution for the new development. Commissioners were in support of the conceptually presented pedestrian-friendly sidewalks that are being proposed for the new site. Commissioner Kraplansky stated that the Italian Village sees a mix of industrial to historic look and for the applicant to think of maybe more industrial than modern. Commissioners informed applicant that they would need to provide a better site plan in order for the commissioners to review the area in relation to variances. They were unsure about the lot coverage along North 4th Street specifically. The number does seem high for the south property. Commissioner Trot had concern about the permeability of the site and space for trees to be added to the lot. Some commissioners were concerned about the height of the building and if they are taller than the surrounding historic homes. Typically, new construction should be either the same or lower than the historic homes along the streetscape. They requested applicant to provide a perspective of the proposed new building along the existing house and buildings along the streetscape. Additionally, a streetscape elevation to compare the heights and to see if the open space, see it within the open space and landscaping. Commissioner Michael Smith noted the conceptual stairs facing North 4th Street appeared short in comparison to the existing house next door, designed to complement existing buildings. Commissioners were in support of the lots, but that were present at the time. At the October business meeting, the commissioners made the following statements and recommendations. Commissioners stated that cast and placed concrete does not appear to be a typical material or application used in the neighborhood. Some commissioners would recommend a concrete water table with block above. Some commissioners recommended applicant to look into different landscaping options to soften the concrete wall areas. Commissioners requested detailed section drawing of the porch and step area. They requested applicant to provide additional information about the trash plan in order for the commission to understand the proposed design. Stated the Greenwood has been an area for industrial modern design of buildings. They requested applicant to consider using pavers along the pedestrian area. Commissioners stated the proposed design is a good response to the spaces. And staff did remind commissioners that the garage from the 60s will need to be discussed further to see if they would be in support of the demolition. Staff recommendation, the commissioners should offer design feedback that can be utilized by the applicant to further refine proposal for review at a future IBC meeting. No action is required.
All right, over to you.
I appreciate all the comments. It's a continuation of what we presented in back in July. I think the big idea for the project is that there's this opportunity for the Flatiron site to have, allow for the plan of each individual unit to be a microcosm of the site, as well as having each unit have some type of response to skyline views to the south, as well as activating Fifth Street, which is technically an alley, to allow that to be a streetscape where a lot of the neighbors are walking their dogs. Is it okay to pass?
Oh, yes, I apologize.
I
Thank you.
I printed those out. These are the existing photos of the site.
Just the existing.
Gotcha.
Um, So right now, it's a vacant lot which has a 1960s garage structure which addresses Greenwood. Greenwood is technically an alley. Fifth Street is technically an alley. So the way that the zoning code reads is that the side yard is Fifth Street. And so we're just allowing for there to be a buffer. So we've done some step backs and setbacks. We've added balconies to engage the streetscape. And then we've provided a nice buffer between the property on Greenwood. There's these two new builds, one on South Fourth and one on North. And then there's new builds on the other side of Fifth. So it's kind of sandwiched between these new builds. And we just feel like it addresses the streetscape. It's a nice quality solution. And, you know, the variance is, I think the south lot, there's a peculiar condition in the code, which you're only allowed to, on a lot that's less than 30 feet, you're only allowed to use 100 feet of it. So that's why the lot ends up being only 3,042 instead of, in actuality, it's 4,067 square feet. We provided landscaping plans in the package. I think that was a request of commissioners last time. And then also the trash, because of the 90-gallon bins, each unit's going to have a 2-car garage, and we'll be able to stick those 90-gallon bins inside. That's the plan, to put them inside the garage. So both the trash and recycling would be inside. So that's located, that's identified on the floor plans and the site plan as well. You know, as far as the materials go, there's this interest in you know, the industrial aspect and the simplicity of the concrete. You know, I've been looking for board, an option to maybe use board form concrete. I just can't find a contractor right now. But there's, you know, with the building to the south, which is the
it's the extension of the Bud Dairies.
yeah, the Bud Dairy building. So that's kind of like a more industrial style building there, and I'm kind of drawing some off of that. And then I think that utilizing the wood Ipe wood applique around the doors around kind of softens it and also ties into the underside of the balconies. To the north, if you see in the existing photos, you've got these large Fifth Avenue developments which kind of got down onto the property, and then everything north of Greenwood is pretty much just industrial. So that's how we're seeing this. And I think you know, the neighbors, every time I go to the site, the neighbors are concerned about the parking and the trash, and I think we solved that problem pretty well, being able to get the 2 stories. But consequently, these buildings are a little bit taller. We're not asking for a variance in the for the height, but they are a little bit taller than the adjacent buildings, but there's a slope to the site. And so it kind of like it's the 2 units in front will sink down and be a little bit lower than the ones to the north. Okay, that's the best I can do right now.
Yeah, that's great. Anybody care to start on this one? Yeah, please.
I really like this project. I think it's a really creative use for, you know, what could be kind of a difficult site. And so I think you did a really nice job of coming up with something really creative. I just have one question, and that is, what, I think when we saw this previously, there was a comment about appreciating the sidewalks. And on page 2, A00, I think that there's a dimension of 3 feet for a sidewalk that runs along Fifth Street, but none of the renderings and the planting, rendering and, plant, landscape plan doesn't show a sidewalk. So I'm curious if there is a sidewalk there. Well, I think there should be. That was one. And my second comment is that the renderings, and ideally there would be trees on the site, but the plant list doesn't have any trees.
Is it Amelanchier? I think I'm looking for the plant list, but that's an ornamental tree. It's not a shade tree.
What is it?
Amelanchier, number 5 at the bottom of the first AME Grand. Amelanchier grandiflora, autumn brilliance,
Yeah.
to be exact. Single stem.
That was,
It's a,
small ornamental.
I think, 25.
Okay. I thought it was a,
But still, it's different than the shade tree that gets supported yourself.
Yeah, I think,
If you can't, we're just gonna go
I'm
around
sorry.
quick, yeah, then we'll get a note done, we could just so we get through everybody.
okay, that's all I have.
And then Carla?
Well, it's not everybody that uses the word microcosm when they talk about their designs, so I would expect nothing less. That's a compliment. So anyhow, I think it's a wonderful project too. There's just one thing that bothers me about it, and I'm looking at these landscaping plans, is that it is a kind of a compilation of the industrial, the more vernacular kind of architecture and things that are there. And so I think that I really appreciate that there's some green softening the concrete. And without looking at this closely and being overly picky, I wonder if there is a simplicity in massing to the landscaping that's going to complement the architecture. That is picky, I realize. And I think whoever did this is almost there, but I think it's really important for those two things to feel like they are working together. You know, that if you have this long facade of concrete in your house and you're adding landscaping, it doesn't seem like it wants to be spotty or just kind of, somewhat, it's pretty, but it's not really fitting the architecture. For what that's worth. But I used to wonder about, some of the variances and things that you were asking, but I don't think we knew, or I didn't know that it was a 4,000 square foot or something versus the 3 that you were telling us about, the way that they actually counted, so. It's a precedent, so we just have to be careful with that. But I think it's really, really nice project, especially like the top, a lot of concrete on the bottom.
I also think the architecture is right on. I think the scale of the proposal feels like it fits right into the streetscape and the other homes, even if it has a different kind of form. So, and I especially appreciate the sort of utilizing the angle of the site and sort of the language of the architecture. I thought it was kind of clever. I am on board with the with concrete base. And we really wouldn't change much about the architecture presently, and I think it's important to say since some are talking about. Let me talk about a couple of global things. I support the lot split, provided we're seeing a proposal like this. And I support the demo, understanding this kind of general direction. I'm encouraged to hear about the trash can and recycling can being programmed in, you know, and if it's, I didn't see it on the site plan, but if it's on the plan itself, that's great, because that's what we want to see. I get why some people are asking for trees and the landscape nuances. The thing that I want to emphasize is that the sidewalk probably will have to happen. And I especially feel that way on Greenwood because there are parts of it already showing up on other sites. And especially since we seem to be able to take care of the trash cans on the site, don't have to assume we're going to end up 300-gallon cans back there. We should probably be thinking that a sidewalk along the north edge of the site is the right thing. If that wants to be converted to some other sort of landscape kind of feature to improve permeability, such as, you know, being bricks versus concrete, I leave that to you guys to figure out. As far as the sidewalk on Fifth Street, I think it's appropriate. I don't know if having it at all begins a code issue about its width and so forth, but I could see where it might be kind of a diminished edge, you know, not a full width sidewalk, but if, yeah, especially if the street is categorized as an alley and that, you know, people can walk in the alley theoretically, but it surely would dress things up if there was some sort of walking edge between the driveways along that west edge of the site. So why do I say, I mean, the main thing to focus on is this north sidewalk because that may impact your setback.
I think, yeah, we'll get into that in just a second. So then, Dr. Jen, what do you think?
Yeah, sorry, I'm looking at sidewalks as well.
I've got photographs from today. Are you looking at the street view?
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess I would like the answer to if this 3.0 sidewalk on Fifth Street is actually still there or not. If it's still there, I think 3 feet on the alley is okay with me, especially because across the street, it seems like they show, yeah, the same thing. I agree with Ben that you're gonna need to do the same thing on Greenwood Avenue to continue that. Otherwise, I feel better about the lot coverage than I did seeing the landscaping plan and kind of understanding that in reality, it's not as covered up as it looks. So yeah.
I like this a lot. I think it's great. As Ben said, I kind of echo all his thoughts about the architecture. I think it fits really well. I really like the concrete first floor. I know others may not. I think it's more dramatic maybe on the rendering than it would be in real life. And I think it would just suit the first floor very well as it aged. Because I think the materials would really be the dominant element. I also think it's a kind of a cool nod to, as you mentioned, there are these interesting patches on the Bud Dairy back building that just for some reason jut up that are concrete sections. I don't know why they do. I don't know if that was your inspiration, whether it was or not. I like it a lot. And I think that over time, it would really take on a cool, you know, so I'm a fan. I think the way you handle the site is very strong. It's a very weird site, and it's also now in this area that has evolved so rapidly, where you've got Bud Dairy on one hand, and you still have all these new developments around. The other thing is, I don't know if you did or somebody else, but I noticed when I walked out there last week, a few doors down, there's something relatively similar to this. It's not the same, but it has a similarity in a good way. I think it's successful. I mean, you can go out there and see that there's something in this vernacular. It's not exactly like this, but you're like, oh yeah, I get it. I see how this would fit. So I don't really have any problems with any of that. I like that you've, at least in the renderings, you know, shown out a little better at the landscape plan, the possibility for some rhythmic trees down Fifth, which I think would be really additive. The sidewalk issue everybody's talking about, it looks like on your rendering, I'm not sure on your site plan, you do have a walk on Greenwood, which I think is clearly something that's just a simple extension of what's already out there. There's already sort of a flat sidewalk that goes right along the alley edge. And then of course you'll have that on Fourth. I'm a little torn on the Fifth Avenue, Fifth Street rather, I'm obviously a huge advocate of sidewalks. At the same time, I was just kind of touring around through the neighborhood to see how we've done this. And I live close to this area for the last few years and did a lot of walking around. There are conditions that are very different, and I don't think there's a specific precedent. I think one of the things we've tried to do is at least get a sidewalk on one side. So I think that, and I know, and I wasn't thinking about it when I was out there, and I can see on here that there is at least the start of a sidewalk on the other side, and I can't remember if we can get that through or not. So like on Hamlet, as you go between, it's all, it kind of chunks. There's like a section of it that's just completely a true alley with no sidewalks between Second and Third. And then it's a real street again. And then you go from Third and you keep going north, and then it gets to be sort of on one side. Then it goes past that and it's on one side, but only because we just newly constructed. Anyway, my point is, I think I'm interested in seeing what you come up with as you think about that issue and what your suggestion is to us. And I'm a little more flexible here than in most cases, in that I do acknowledge that I think a lot of people will walk in the alley safely, as opposed to other places where they might not. And there still should be, if we can, accommodate a sidewalk on one side. So that's my take. Not disagreeing with anything anybody said. I just am not exactly clear what's going on out here. So that's it. Let's hear from you, and then we'll get back into the
Yeah.
discussion.
I appreciate
Oh,
the
I'm
comments.
sorry, real quick, do you have
No, I mean, I can say later, it was just to touch base on the demo of the garage, just to,
Oh, I'm in favor. Anybody, have a problem with the demo of the garage? Yeah,
just to get
Okay,
that confirmed,
sounds
sorry.
I appreciate the comments on the landscaping plan, so I get it, okay. So the issue on Fifth Street with the sidewalk is that AP has stuck two poles that are like right there.
Yeah.
They're halfway on the property, halfway off the property. And so logistically, it's kind of a rough go. But we'll try to make it work. I think that having a nice walkway around the perimeter of the property would be good.
Oh, yeah, those were not there not that long ago, right?
Well, yeah, correct. There's one, an old one, and then one was put to transfer electricity over to the west property. So we had a meeting with AEP to try to see about relocating them and getting them off the property or somehow. So I don't know if it's logistically possible or technically possible to put the sidewalk and keep the alley the width it needs to be. And, but definitely on Fourth and definitely on Green.
Yeah, for sure.
That's all I have. Thank you very much.
All right, great. I guess just work with staff with any other questions or comments. Again, thanks a lot. A lot of hard work into this. We appreciate it.
And Charles, before we finalize this, everything, you'll have an additional week from the deadline. I believe that's.
Thank you.
To the deadline, so I do apologize. We have an extra week. I can send you that information. So, just to forget where that only when you turn the corner. So that's what I was looking for. Actually, how right it happened. Yeah.
I got it. Yeah, I think it's good to look at the site.
No, I
And
mean,
in person. Have you seen that?
a while ago, I did. There isn't all the way down, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I think it must just be, yeah, I think there's.
Gotcha.
So.
All right, cool. Okay, let's move on to the next one, which is application IV-23-01-013, and that is 723-731 Hamilton. Okay. Whenever you gentlemen are ready. And both raise your right hands and have you state your name for the record.
Phil Heron. Dustin Aldecan.
And you promise to tell the truth in your testimony to the best of your ability this evening.
Yes.
Excellent. Will the staff read?
Proposed work description previously reviewed at the September 2022 hearing, IV 22-09016. Demolish 2 existing non-contributing concrete and concrete block rear entry stoops and replace with new wood entry stoops, opaque stained cedar skirt boards, and treated wood decking. Construct 2 additions to the rear of the existing duplex. Additions to be wood framed with cementitious board and batten siding. Roofs to be single ply membrane and will finish below the height of the historic roof. Proposal includes wrought iron fence, 42 inches in height with gate along Cedar Alley along the south side of property. Application was previously reviewed conceptually at the September 2022 hearing. Following is taken from the approved September 13th, 2022 Italian Village Commission meeting minutes. Per applicant, would retain lintels and wooden fill with framing. Some commissioners asked about possibility of using brick for addition siding in a different color. Per applicant, the square footage is too narrow and would lose too much footage if brick was used. Commission noted that they appreciated the changes that have been made. Some commissioners noted they appreciate that the full board and batten was tried. Find that there is a clash between program and architecture. Understand what applicant is trying to accomplish, but is at great stake for the architecture itself. Note it makes sense to have a shed roof at the rear of additions, often would have historically, and makes sense to have a flat roof as sleeping porches would have. However, the merging of the two does not seem successful. They think the applicant did the right thing by pulling back the 4 inches to defer to the elevation. Still have the flat roof and shed roof that does not read as either a sleeping porch, a rear porch, or a rear addition. Some commissioners note because of the high exposure, visibility of the elevation of the alley, they are not supportive of a narrow addition strip on the alley side. This obscures the historic roof line. The addition seems to have taken over the house and does not fit with the guidelines. They would encourage applicant to instead think about not having a sleeping porch effect. Within the current iteration, there are blank walls with windows not present in the projection toward the yard in the addition. They think this could still be successful without a second story addition, or instead abandoning trying to build a 5-foot offset and maintaining the offset that is part of the historic home. The addition feeling cobbled together with very thin wraparound, not supportive of project as currently proposed, but appreciates efforts so far. At the October business meeting, commissioners made the following statements and recommendations. The commission appeared to be in favor of the overall design. Staff recommends the commission should offer design feedback that could be utilized by the applicant to further refine the proposal for review at a future IBC meeting. No action is required at this time.
Okay, sounds great. What do you have for us today?
Well, basically, the design has changed pretty dramatically from what we presented in September of 2022. With the elimination of the wraparound pieces, the intent is still to, Dustin is looking to, really kind of, upgrade the units with the addition of some additional program space that he feels is necessary for, really just general livability. And, and to create some security for the crawl space areas where all the mechanicals are. So we're utilizing just 2 small infill additions in the northwest and southwest corners, which are 2-story additions, wood frame, with the board batten siding, I suppose, as a counterpoint to the original brick structure. Just very simple massing, flat roofs, and utilizing, just some openings that are proportional to the original openings. So it's really a very scaled back kind of version of where we were in 2022. So.
Sounds good. Shannon, you want to jump in?
Yeah, I think that this is a much better solution, than last year. I really have nothing to add other than it's just a tiny thing, which is that I don't think even at the end that, well, I mean, if we're gonna go with board and batten, I guess wood would be okay for the stoop, but yeah, I don't really have anything to add. I think it's a good solution now. Sorry, boring response, but
That's perfectly fine. Ben?
I support the project pretty much as is. I think that I support the the demo of the non-contributing concrete, support the additions as you've drawn them. I think they are appropriately scaled and folded into the architecture. I think the door penetration is going to happen, the way I understand it, going into the second floor would be where a window would have been, so that's a good thing. I think this is all, is this also including the iron fence? Okay, I think that's appropriate. And I appreciate your showing where the trash cans are gonna go and so forth, so all good stuff. I'm supporting the project.
So, it's a great improvement as well. I have one comment, and, if you look at, let me find the drawing. This is drawing number 7 and also drawing number 6. I wish that there was another window on the end of the bathroom. I feel like if you look at the front of this Italian aid house, and there's just this beautiful relationship between the window openings and the brick. And by that, I mean that there's a lot of window to the solid material. And then when you look at the very subtle elevations that you've added here, there's not a lot more room to add windows, but I just wish, which one am I trying to get to here? Mumbling, sorry. This is sheet 7, elevation 6, the west elevation. There is, you're ahead of me. It feels like a lot of empty board and batten without a window in it. And I just wonder if you couldn't add a small window in the back of that bathroom in there. That'd be possible. And then, there, you know, there's one smaller one on the side. But it's just, and I'm the only person who has said that, so I think you're in good shape so far, but it's something that I think might be nice in that elevation.
Brooke, do you have comments?
West elevation.
Mm-hmm. I mean, not that you couldn't have it on the north
Right.
too, but
I think that's a good comment. That's a walk-in closet, isn't it, on that?
On the second floor, yeah, that's a walking house.
But
it's on WC.
I think that's a good comment, but it wouldn't prohibit me from being okay with the project. I just think it'd be, would look a lot better. Feels a little top heavy for those tall, skinny additions.
Okay, I'll make my last comments. I don't really have a strong feeling either way about those windows because it's pretty far back from the front of the house, so.
That is true.
I'm kind of, yeah, I mean, that's actually facing the rear, so it's, you really don't see anything from the front, so it's all backyard. So to me, it's kind of whatever you want to do, but that's just my own personal take.
That's a good point.
People do like windows and walk-in closets, so.
I'm not saying they should.
I do. I think anytime you can get natural light,
We can make it a prerogative or like an option for it.
it's an option for sure.
Okay, any other thoughts?
There's a thought just from staff, kind of based on Commissioner Fergus, I believe we stated it during business meeting, but just the decking in the back portion, the right-hand side of the west elevation would be something that would be suitable towards the guidelines. The one to the left is a little bit of our concern because it's kind of turning into a platform deck as kind of a stoop. So that would just be our, from HBO staff, just our little concern on that detail.
Yeah, my take is still, I'm okay with platforms, which is something that doesn't involve a rail, doesn't involve the traditional support system that holds it up high above the ground. So that's my take.
Me too,
I feel
because
differently.
they're clearly not a part of the, you know, trend that you're trying to be historic, so I think that they're nice.
Whichever.
I agree.
Okay, do we have a motion?
I think this is conceptual, isn't it?
Oh, it's conceptual.
Yeah.
All right, well, great. Thanks for coming in. And then I guess, doesn't sound like we have any significant That, I can't promise anything, but that indicates there's a decent chance, 2 weeks, it may be staff retreat. When not come back, so.
And as I told the applicant prior to you both sitting down, there will be a week from the deadline to submit for action for November. I actually believe we have an extra week, so it might be the 18th, but I will send that information to you about the deadline.
All right, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Okay, final application on the agenda tonight is ID 23-10-014 345 Second Ave.
Good.
Hey, are you ready? You could stand or take a seat, doesn't matter, not that formal. If you want to raise your, each raise your right hand, you can state your names for the record.
Jennifer Rufiner and Carly LaFrance.
And you promise to tell the truth in your testimony, the best of your ability this evening.
I do. Yes.
So staff will get this report, then over to you.
Replace existing windows on the north and east elevations with new storefront and overhead doors. Replace bowing segment of wall and north elevation to make it structurally sound. Install new aluminum storefront and doors with clear glazing, matte black finish on west, north, and east elevations. Paint existing door to match color on west elevation. Construct a freestanding pergola within the fenced-in area. Paint existing fence and piers, color per owner selection. New overhead sectional doors on north elevation. Door to have glazed panels with matte black rails and stiles. Paint north and east elevations matte black to match existing west elevation. Replace sliding gate with fence and exit door. Install new exit doors on fence and new double swing gate. Applicant initially reached out in July to have a preliminary conversation about the new design concept for the space that included the replacement of the currently coiling overhead door with fixed glass garage door, as well as the window replacement in the existing openings. Applicant submitted a request for action application for the exterior alterations, as well as the outdoor space updates within the fenced-in area. HBO staff reviewed materials and recommended applicant come to the commission as a conceptual application to receive the commissioner's feedback on the application and allow time to provide the additional information listed below. Product spec sheet or manufacturer brochure for the aluminum windows and doors that are being proposed. Detailed elevation drawings of the proposed pergola, including material to be used or product. Detailed drawings of the patio bar area for the built-in bench bar area, including materials. Materials that will be used in the dog park exterior space. If fencing is included in the exterior space, please include type, material, design. Paddle pool, space size, and layout to be indicated on the site plan, as well as product if there is a specific product being used. In the images of the front elevation, we noticed a dumpster. Is there a plan to relocate that on the property? If so, please include on the site plan. If outside the fence, it would require additional screening and fencing. Additionally, going through the drawings and application, we noticed a mention of replacing a bowing segment of the north facade. We would request additional detailed photos of the area for the commission to review. Applicants agree with the recommendation provided by staff as counted as conceptual. At the past October business meeting, the commissioner made the following statements and recommendations: details, drawings, materials about the pergola, preliminary plan for the overall landscaping and lighting, detailing on trash enclosure or trash placement, dimensions for the window and spacing between muntins that are currently on the building, and for the new windows to maybe match existing. Commissioners should offer design feedback that can be utilized by the applicant to further refine the proposal for review at a future IBC meeting. No action is required at this time.
Okay, over to you.
So, yeah, that's basically it. A couple items that we did want to bring to your attention. We are proposing an infill of an existing window that is on the north facade. It's to the far, far right. It's currently in front of a weird little passageway that I think at some point they had to make this interior blast proof, and so they added this CMU wall to the interior. And so that window really serves no purpose and doesn't really serve a purpose for our program on the exterior anymore. So wanted to bring that to your attention. We are, our intent is to match the existing storefront that is on the church next door that they replaced their coiling door with. However, the COA application that they submitted didn't specify the type. So
I think what we would be looking at is, maybe getting a sample and taking it out to the site to make sure it matches.
We do have additional resources here printed since we had submitted this. It didn't have the floor plan, I don't think. And we also have some additional photographs if you guys would like those.
Yeah, I think we do have some version of a floor plan. That being said, if you got printed things, that's fine. You can hand them out and we kind of start asking some questions.
With it being new materials, though, we typically don't allow for new materials to be presented at the meeting beforehand, so we can put them up for digital copies. If the commission is fine with that,
I mean, honestly,
that's
it's
fine.
conceptual. It doesn't matter to me what everybody else thinks.
I think it's fine.
Yeah, I'm largely in support of what's going on here, so I'm not sure that this will contribute to my. Feeling.
Right, this is really just additional photos of existing conditions. I think we've got the same plans kind of shown in here.
Yeah, I think we get the idea there. Just a question for you. So what I'm understanding this site plan, the one thing I was confused about is that your exterior space is within that current fence, correct?
Correct.
So the parking lot area essentially remains the same.
Essentially, yes, we will have a loading zone. So an updated plan, which we'll have for the next meeting. We do show the removal of the one tree, not that one, the one next to it. You can kind of see it in the site.
Do you have a ton of information or not?
That, it should be in the site plan as well.
That's okay.
But
You can kind of eye it on the site plan. That
yeah.
Commissioner City, would you like them?
Yeah, it's just,
So-
we're almost done.
But we
We're in the.
are hoping to relocate it to the kind of grass patch on the other side of the parking lot.
Oh, I see what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Of course, I'm not sure, but
All right.
yeah, it's on there.
Not that, and this is not that this is relevant to our review of the external portion of the building, but just so we get the sense, this is basically a bar where people bring their dogs to hang out, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
correct.
Just want to make sure I wasn't missing. So,
So in the last 4 pages, we've just included some additional existing conditions photos.
okay,
On
that's
the
helpful.
first of those pages,
that's
there's the
actually
3 on the corner that you can see that we would.
That's helpful.
Oh, it is the Veritas building.
Yes,
Yes.
this is just
They're-
right next to it on the left side.
Yeah, they are leasing from Veritas.
So you have an agreement to park anywhere in the slot, or how does that?
Yeah, so it is in the northern lot at all times, and the southern lot, that long vertical one, on after 5 p.m. and on weekends.
Which is when we would expect this to be most busy.
Yeah, because I guess everything on the other side is different.
Yeah, I think that belongs to the Nevada parts.
Yeah, so we've had applications in for redevelopment of that site.
I'm just gonna jump in and say, I really have no problems with conceptually anything you're talking about here. Now that you're talking about removing a tree, I think that there's gonna be some discussion about replacing it in some other location perhaps. So you want to be thinking about that. And the other things that are on my mind right now, besides the trash dumpster location that Morgan mentioned, is upcoming signage and lighting that might be on your mind, but completely towards that road tonight. Just know that we're going to be looking for how you're thinking about lighting to make things safe and to accentuate entrances, and that you clarify what your signage aspirations are. If it's just going to be wall mounted, or it's going to be any sort of in facing second avenue.
That will be our next application.
I have just a somewhat minor question is what you're going to do with paved areas. Just thinking about how people enter the village, how the dogs go out there in the outdoor space and that kind of thing. I'm looking at all these things and saying, it's exciting.
Yeah, so the outdoor area is going to be half turf, half concrete. So the bar area will be concrete with a little bit of turf, and the actual dog play area would be mostly turf. The entrance would be on like the Veritas entrance side. So where the current entrance to the building is, we'd be replacing a window there with a storefront and double doors.
we're replacing the coiling door.
That's it, yeah,
With
the
the-
fixed door foiling door with the fixed storefront. So that would be the main entrance. From there, you enter through like a retail area, and there's a reception desk that allows you to sign a waiver when you come in. And so it's controlled access to the bar and to the dog park after that.
And then to get outside to that outdoor area, we're proposing one set of swing doors and then also 2 large garage doors that are placed there.
So you'll be putting all this stuff on Amazon.
Yes.
Sounds great.
Brooke, do you have other thoughts?
No, I think it looks really fun. I can't wait.
We can't do that.
Jan, you're back. The only thing I noticed, small detail, I noticed there's a fairly large Caterpillar branded, which looks like some kind of mechanical system that's currently in the fencing area. And it looks like that's getting removed.
Yes.
Okay, so I guess my only question is, which is very minor on this site, is if you could just let us know if there are any significant mechanicals that are going anywhere on site that won't be on the roof.
Okay,
Because we'd be interested in screening those if it was in some exterior location, which I can't figure out where that could possibly be, so I think you're fine. But that's something we try to avoid is large scale, unscreened,
right.
surface mounted mechanical devices. Okay, any other information or questions that you have for us today?
No.
All right, staff, is there anything else you need from us on this application in order to keep it going?
No, I think the great feedback, just like, just reiterate what I said to the other conceptual applications, that they're waiting a week from the deadline, and I do think it's 18th value for action application or new consent.
Thanks a lot for coming in. We look forward to seeing your revived application.
Thank you very much.
All right, staff, what else we have today?
One item, I'll make myself sorted out. We don't have anything on new business on the agenda presently, but Commissioner Goodman brought up the tree survey discussion to possibly have it during the meeting tonight. We can do that, or we can also reserve it for the November business meeting, have it, on the physical agenda if we would like to, or we can discuss it.
It's up to you.
I think it's fine. I just want to start get it sort of on the
I agree.
radar and how we can discuss it. And I think you're right that it needs to be part of our well, I don't know, watch list or ability to write a letter or show support. And something that came up tonight, I think aligns with something that it made me think about, and that is that it sure is a shame when we're fighting for trees that power lines are being thrown down both sides by giving.
Yeah.
And I would like to figure out a way together how we can have a conversation with the powers that be to have some pushback on that. Okay, we get that power needs to be supplied, but but if at all possible, or I don't know, maybe even more stringently say it just goes down one side of the street.
Yeah.
So that we can at least have a decent line of streets or trees down one side of the street.
I agree,
So-
and I think the other side of that, other part of that is that a lot of times these alleys don't really have much opportunity for green space. So if we can advocate that they relocate to alleys when possible during any kind of new construction or things like that, that way we're pulling it back. We'd have to designate which alleys those were, because obviously some like put alleys essentially streets, but some aren't. So we could figure out a way to start to get them off of always being down both sides of every major road.
Cool. Unless anybody has any more comments about that, there was one other thing I mentioned to staff today when I came in, and it just has to do going back to homes that have been occupied or abandoned for 10 or 20 years. And that if we could just get that on the agenda for the business meeting. Main thing I would like to see as a next step is to understand how, if a building gets tagged for being a nuisance, how it moves into a COA, and if we want to figure out that there's a phased way of, because often if they get started, they have a whole year to continue the process, and that worries me a little bit. But the main thing is just that we all understand what the process is, don't miss opportunities to lean in right at the right moment with extra attention.
That house on Punta has been sitting empty for 6 years.
Yeah, on Punta?
Yeah. I'm like,
Well, right with that.
Not anymore.
what?
Not anymore, they moved in,
No,
the one by Kasecha.
someone moved into that?
Yeah, the original builders, I just talked to them like this.
What?
Well, there are other.
I did not think that was even possible. Like, I thought it had to have just fallen apart.
Nope, you mean the new build?
Yeah,
Yeah, they just moved in
Like-
months ago.
like, wow.
So can we,
I thought it was
Everybody-
falling down.
thinks it's a good idea to pick up that topic as well during the business meeting?
Yeah, we can add both those items, with the degree survey discussion as well, or is that correct? I'm just thinking.
I think so, yeah.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
All right, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.